Today's Mining Journal Spotlight is on copper explorer Alma Metals. I'm Nari McDiarmid and I'm speaking with Managing Director Frazer Tabeart. Now, Frazer, you've got a strong background in international copper porphyry experience. Can you explain why Alma's focus is on copper and Australia?
Yeah, hi Nari. Yeah, look, I guess from our perspective, copper is one of those metals that has many uses. It's sort of a good arbiter of how the world's performing from an industrial perspective. And we've always liked to be involved in metals that have that sort of broad, a proper commodity feel about them. Porphyry coppers in particular, they're a huge source of copper. They account for about 60% of global production. So it's an important class of deposit and one I've had some personal experience with. In my earlier career with Western Mining Corporation. So it's one I'm very familiar with. And so I've got some ideas on where to go looking for these types of deposits. I think people wouldn't normally think that Australia is the place to go for porphyry coppers. But there are, in fact, a number that are known. Some of the lesser well-known ones are here in Western Australia. So, for example, the Boddington Gold Mine is actually a variant on a porphyry copper deposit, certainly in my opinion. And then we have colleagues in our office with another company, Caravel Minerals, who have a deposit in the wheatbelt town of Kalingri, which is clearly a deformed porphyry copper deposit. So we know they exist. And if we move further to the east, there are certainly some very good examples there, with sort of the standout being Cadia and North Parks. They're very much porphyry copper style deposits. There are also a number in central Queensland, and that's sort of one of the things that attracted us to coming back, is that there are a series of deposits in the eastern states, particularly in Queensland, that have been overlooked in the past because their grades are quite low. But with copper prices surging, in response to decarbonisation themes, electrification themes, with copper prices being strong and likely to be stronger for longer, then low-grade deposits in good fiscal situations with good infrastructure are something that we think is a great opportunity to get into. And that's one of the reasons we've come back to Australia. It's a class of deposit that's not been all that well explored for here, so there are opportunities. We can still find copper deposits at surface, which you can't do in some of the better known porphyry belts in, say, Indonesia or Chile or Peru. And Australia is a great place to work.
Well, you mentioned Queensland earlier, and that's where your flagship project, the Briggs, Mannersley and Fig Tree Hill project, and that's got a 143 million tonne resource already, grading 0.29% copper. What do you make of early exploration there so far?
Yeah, well, that's a joint venture where we have an earning right with our partner there, Canterbury Resources. What we like about that project is it sits at surface, so that inferred resource actually outcrops, so you can go and touch it and see it. It's real. The other thing we really like about it is its location. It's about 50 kilometres to the west of Gladstone, just north of major infrastructure, which includes road, power lines, railway lines, gas pipelines. So all the infrastructure you'd ever want is already there. There's been a little bit of drilling done. It's certainly enough to identify that resource. So we know it's real. What's been very effective there is soil sampling that we've done. And if we look at the 0.1% copper contour in those soil samples, it actually identifies 3 porphyry centres there, all 3 of which have had limited drilling in them and all 3 of which have mineralisation. And it's very clear when we look at that data in conjunction with limited geophysical data that's available, it's very clear that the resource is much bigger than that inferred resource would indicate. So, every chance that it's going to get significantly larger. In fact, we've recently released an exploration target here where we sort of think that in addition to that inferred resource, there could be another 450 to 850 million tonnes of mineralisation at similar sorts of grades, so somewhere between 0.2 and 0.4% copper. The other thing that we like about it is the limited metallurgical test work that's been done has been extremely encouraging. We're getting very high copper recoveries at commercially viable concentrate grades. So every reason to expect that if we can grow this project, it's something that could be economically viable due to its ultimately low strip ratio, proximity to infrastructure, and excellent metallurgy.
So what do you have planned there as the first steps now that you've exercised the option to earn in?
Yes, under stage one of the earn-in option, where we can earn a 30% interest, we've committed to spend $2.25 million in exploration work. The first part of that will be another drilling program. This time we're going to do core drilling, and it gives us a bit more flexibility and gives us a much better quality sample for metallurgical test work. And the goal here is to drill 3,000 metres in about half a dozen relatively deep holes. And they're designed to test the extension of the central Briggs deposit away from the known resource, but within the exploration target that we previously referred to. And then also look at the northern porphyry, which, as the name implies, is a little bit further to the north. And the limited drilling that's happened there has been very encouraging. We're seeing slightly higher grades than elsewhere in the project. The soil sampling clearly identifies a potential for quite a large position there. And based on that exploration target there, that's a really good target. So that's the first bit of work we'll do. That hopefully would lead into a re-evaluation of the published inferred resource. We'd like to see that increase in size, and certainly that drilling show that the potential is there for even more. And then we've got the opportunity of doing some more metallurgical test work with fresh core from that mineralisation, particularly the northern porphyry, where we haven't done any metallurgical test work to date.
Well, Frazer, aside from your flagship project, you're also looking to expand Alma Metals' portfolio, and you've also got several projects in WA. So there's a lot on your plate. What can investors expect in the coming months?
Yeah, so we staked a number of projects in the southwest gneiss terrain of WA, or I guess they were approved just over a year ago. We've undertaken our first pass roadside soil sampling programs there, so we're just starting to see data flow through from that. So we'll be making decisions on whether those projects go forward or not in the coming weeks and months, and obviously there'll be news flow around that. Probably more importantly than that, though, we have staked quite a large area up in the East Kimberley to the north and west of Wyndham. So we've staked an area there of almost 1,000 square kilometres. And we've done that because we've recognised the potential opportunity for sediment-hosted copper mineralisation. So this is the type of much higher grade mineralisation that you see, for example, in the Central African copper belt, where there are some enormous and very high grade deposits. So they're very attractive deposits to find. So we've staked this land. We've seen that in the geological records up there are a number of occurrences of the style of mineralisation that we're seeking, and they're at exactly the parts in the stratigraphy where we would expect them to be based on the conceptual models of how these deposits form. So it's ticking lots of boxes there. Now, it's a sensitive area. It's an Aboriginal reserve. We're having discussions with the traditional owners and the native title holders there, and talking about building a relationship with them, getting access to the land, and going through a series of phases of exploration there, working with them in partnership to evaluate that. So early days there, but we've had a series of meetings that have been very, very promising. We're expecting, or hoping, I should say, that in a matter of weeks that we'll be able to announce that we've concluded the first part of negotiating an exploration and access agreement, and soon after that we'll be ready to start exploration on the ground. And just to put that in context, it's the opportunity here for a potential new province in Australia for copper that has previously been completely untested for copper, other than some very preliminary work in 1971 by CRA, which only got to the reconnaissance stage and went no further. So, a very exciting project, and one we're looking forward to putting news flow out in the coming months.
Well, there's lots of potential at your fingertips, Frazer. Thank you for the update today.
My pleasure.